The Rural Agency for Community Development and Assistance, RACIDA, a non-governmental organization, was the creation of local professional and traditional leaders from communities in northern Kenya.
RACIDA is a national organization working in Kenya, and it also has an affiliates across the border in Somalia and Ethiopia.
Since the last 10 years, we've been supporting RACIDA, and since 2005, in 2005 we actually started with financing most of their budget. Over half of their budget was financed by Cordaid.
In 2005, RACIDA was established to enhance the capacity of communities to access and utilize knowledge and resources for their own benefit. With specific reference to pastoralist communities in arid and semi-arid areas, RACIDA develops and implements community-based programs for self-reliance and sustainable works.
Over the years, these communities were affected by vagaries of climate change, and in particular, they have been affected by frequent droughts that has destroyed their lives as well as also their livelihoods.
RACIDA has been using the concept of Community-Managed Disaster Risk Reduction, CMDRR, as the entry point to develop various projects. CMDRR refers to a process of disaster risk reduction in which communities are engaged actively in the identification of analysis, treatment, monitoring, and evaluation of risk with the aim of reducing vulnerability and enhancing capacities.
One to Kokara hazard assessment, capacity assessment to China, vulnerability assessment to China, risk assessment man to China.
Disasters are always local phenomena, and it requires local solution. And local communities are supposed to be empowered to be in the front line to mitigate the impacts and of these climate hazards.
From July 2012 to June 2013, RACIDA has worked on a community risk reduction strategy under the Enhancing Community Resilience Project, ECR, in Mandera County of northeastern Kenya. With projects in Mandera North, Banisa, and Mandera West, the specific locations targeted were Ramu, Ramudimto, Kalicha, and Yabicho in Mandera North, and Guba, Choroko, Kukub, Tarama, and Hulo in Banisa and Mandera West districts. The project was born out of a series of participatory disaster risk assessments, PDRAs, and its aim was to increase the resilience of communities to manage the effects of drought in the region.
We employed a process known as participatory disaster risk assessment at community level, and that has ensured community ownership and sustainability of the project.
RACIDA provides training to CBOs, women's groups, FBOs, youth groups, cooperatives, and societies for the purpose of strengthening their capacity to effectively participate in their selected programs. The ECR project was introduced to the community through mobilization events with local administrators and chiefs. The responsibility of the community was stressed from the onset of the project, with an emphasis on community contribution and ownership of the implementation process. RACIDA has been able to assist the local communities to mitigate the effects of drought. In recent years, most of the pastoralists have lost their animals to adverse effects of drought. As a result, local communities have taken to farming as an alternative source of income and livelihood, often growing maize and millet on small tracts of land, while still using most of the land for grazing of animals.
magacaygu waxaa la yiraahdaa Yuusuf Cabdi Calisow anigoo ku nool Raamadiimta khaas ahaan beeraha Beeni meeshan Beeni la yiraahdo waa meel dadkeeda ay ku tiirsan yihiin beertan kanaalkan ka hor wax soo saar ma lahayn dhulku waa dhulkan ma banaaneen saas uma banaaneen maxaa jira biyo fiican oo anfac ma haysanin injimaha way nagu yaraayeen hal baan haysanay waa gaari way dhulkan markii kanaalkan noola dhisay kadib yaan dhulkan aad u banayni marka biyihina waxaad noo sahlay meel ay awal noo gaarayni inay noo gaaraan marka ilaahay fadligiis marka beerihi haddaan jabsano kanaalkan noola sameey wax badan baan u isticmaalnay
However, rainfall in Mandera is often below average and unpredictable. Therefore, many times locals are forced to harvest their crops before maturity to feed their livestock and sell what remains to livestock farmers. The project's direct beneficiaries are approximately 26,322 women and 15,896 men that live across 10 villages and are members of 22 community-based organizations. Under the project, the following activities were undertaken. In the area of water sanitation and hygiene, support was provided to 3 communities to construct 3 underground water harvesting tanks. Resida's assistance in the provision of an underground water tank to the community of Korobo Habero area in Banisa district has made a huge impact.
Ammakanki wairanini Malisak Mal Ibrahim Nanjerani Kukub village Chemen Uji laftana tisin qabat waan isin biloofteni taangitan bisaan kun yookaan taangin kun dhib guddaan irraa daboole alhamdulillah itti miirfanne dirri kun kanaan ijaarame artin ruuxee nu deebite shiddaan guddoon kiiloomeetira 18 yookaan nuti deemta tarrama ta akka baaran saatu hedditu tanu isaan barbaada deemni taan shiddaan sun irraa xiqqaate.
The tank was initially planned to have a capacity of 400 cubic meters, but now has a capacity of 630 cubic meters after the local community managed to source more funds to the tune of 1 million Kenya shillings from the consortium of consulting partners. With the nearest water points many kilometers away, people had to travel long distances to collect water using camels. The local community were fully involved in the implementation of the project. They mobilized the youth to pave a road to allow for easier transport of building material. Local artisans were hired to assist in the construction and were paid daily wages which boosted household incomes in the area. Resida, as the implementing agency, was in charge of the procurement and all necessary materials and also provided the logistics. With the installation of the water tank, the community now has constant water supply and is also able to harvest rainwater, bringing a lot of hope and positive change to the community. They get clean and well-managed water for their domestic use, farming and for watering their animals. Water is indeed life as seen by the positive changes to this small community that no longer needs to travel long distances in search of water. The children are now able to go to school and the dry land farming and freshwater supply ensures a healthy and thriving community. Training was made available to community operators on basic operation and maintenance of these facilities. Women members of the communities were trained on water handling and storage to avoid water contamination. Resida undertook the rehabilitation and recapping of 2 existing shallow wells. A shallow well is a hand-dug well of about 20 to 30 feet deep that gives forth fresh water. The well diggers begin to line the well walls with stones when it has about 6 feet of water. These shallow wells are often left exposed without a solid cover, just a few sticks strategically placed over the opening to indicate the presence of a well. In Tarama, many shallow wells have been recapped and rehabilitated by Resida over the years, but many still remain uncovered, exposing the community and their animals to great risk. Resida has facilitated the recapping of 2 community-owned shallow wells. The community was the main source of labor, whilst Resida facilitated the procurement process of construction materials. Upon completion, the wells are now much safer to use and the water is much cleaner. Furthermore, women find it much easier to draw water from these wells for household use and for watering their animals in specially designed troughs. Resida has provided 105 households with slab for pit latrines on a cost-sharing basis. 30 communities underwent training on community-led total sanitation. Water Resource Users Association in 15 communities were trained in the area of water resource management. The key objectives of these trainings was operations and maintenance, hygiene and sanitation, and sound financial management practices. Fodder production training was given to 30 farmers along Dawa River. The aim of this training was to equip fodder farmers with the best fodder seed planting techniques and agronomic practices. 30 beekeeping groups were supported with manual honey extractors and bee harvesting suits and beehives.
laftan wako dadachadani hartan wako dadachadani duru gagura mirax laftan am nami wako dadachaga nami bekanin kam laftun utijana laftan gagura tugura chujir laftan du gagura bakejir kam kinisi kejir kaka mantan katagarte kan haksun keza gisin nakin na rafaide to kollenam kan nikes injir duri dibisi mukku yabasu nan da yulu fo munjir yegi lakin rasida wani kon nukana yulu fo bele nan duft gambut kan kare fatar ko jonar ka golobna kan am guyum ba fatan akum galaf loni friat rafaid.
A series of trainings were conducted in the area of honey production and honey byproducts, such as candles and soaps. Assorted farm tools were distributed to 60 dryland farmers. Farmers from Mandera North and Banisa were selected representing Guba and Isakora locations. They underwent training in crop production and harvesting techniques in dryland areas. Thereafter, they were equipped with dryland farming tools such as hoes, spades, slashers, knapsack sprayers, and sickles. Greenhouses were built by 3 dryland farmers. The rationale here is to improve the farmers' adaptive capacities in semi-arid areas. Rasida's greenhouse pilot project in Ramu is helping dryland farmers access new farming technology that helps them grow more food in fragile ecosystems. With the use of greenhouses, farmers use 70% less water and increase fertilizer efficiency by 30% and ultimately grow healthier crops. 30 women groups were trained in income-generating activities to enhance their financial skills, as well as linking them to microfinance credit facilities.
wartarama anoo ma libre naayada mi wartarama ka faraco dhaqatadii rasiidaan u gadhuftay no saacideey marwa gasinu dedebite siminanu tojite ilbananaan arta raakaate urinu kenit shirikum shantaman kenit shantam kan raakaane faayde fanene be sharan tofan sagalen bu fande wa kamu ilmanin iskuul raba fande abban deeni fudhatellen fudhatee gaddeebisa ka fayda baallen isbitaalaan dhaqee gaddeefata
anini abdiya maaliman nuur naanedani terqaale tarama lokoshiin armaan dura rasiidhaan ree kudhan nuukeen ree kudhanaan suni eegi sun dhaqaalee u jir yoo siin guddate waan korbeesa yalaa bitan waan dhaltuulleen dhaqaaleyaan korbeesun ilmaanin iskuul irraa baafan ilmaa yoo siin fayyaa dhabdelle isbitaalaan geefan nam karaabaallee onni dhibameere nam karaabaa sun yoo onni gadhufe in kaalmeyanii.
20 farmer households were gifted with 1 dairy cow each for diversified breeding. There was the distribution of drought-resistant seeds. Rasida took 20 farmers from Mandera County to visit eastern Kenya, Ukambani, for an exposure tour. The weather in Ukambani is similar to that of Mandera County in terms of rainfall frequency and amount.
Ana Muhammad Ibrahim Nayirani, Ramo location, Vulan Tiyalem, Vula Abakaro. Nama special farmer, very active, gara agriculture TV, gara kanle selection tachani. Kasi nairgani, or agriculture nairgi, siwalin jirtu Rasida. Makueni dak. 14 days achi tene training gatashin. One training kan kesa kaban tuwa. Asi inti sa mayir ani tu nuga fatan. Lo sulaman usad madama nama fama tay ka uru qab. Kalafti intulen abarti dibige sa sagaltami abarti. Akiti iti bahasa roba kan ka garan qaban isan do wegi sanama lon sun gadar gade isan arkina senan yabdu tijiran da it فايدان ثاني أنا زايد أنا قرا فايدان دولت نقدر أنا نما أنا كتسار هرجع أنا يولين سكول الربا فني نفتي أنا رانولا نين تنتي رافين ولا جود نين فايدان الدنيا تقرا كسمة بيتا أكسي أكسون يبدو الرقم.
While there, they interacted with other dryland farmers who had learned the art of rainwater harvesting through digging earth pans and Z-pits. Back home in Mandera on their return, a number of farmers immediately dedicated all their farms to crop farming. They had learnt a lot from the dryland farmers of Ukambani, especially that rainfall did not have to control their farming seasons, defying all odds and going against the culture and climatic conditions. The community has restored their capacity for food self-sufficiency, regaining their dignity and no longer relying on the government or UN bodies for food handouts. In the area of natural resource management and conflict mitigation, 9,000 assorted tree seedlings were distributed to afforestation groups in order to plant trees around boreholes, hospitals, and in schools. 6 environmental awareness and conservation campaigns on natural resource management along Dawa River, forest, and key water points were carried out. Interlocking soil block makers were provided to 3 groups. Mandera County has been battling perennial clan clashes, leaving many displaced and dead. To create a reconciliatory environment, 9 peace football tournaments, peace fora camps, and inter-community dialogues in Mandera West and North were successfully organized. Most of the dryland farmers were brought up as pastoralists, but have now taken up farming as a means to diversify their livelihoods. Most of these farmers started off growing maize as the seeds were readily available, albeit not drought-resistant. They persevered despite the poor yields and infrequent rainfall. With assistance from Rasida, they now grow simsim, watermelons, bananas, tomatoes, and sweet potatoes. They are now able to produce harvest enough for subsistence and for the market. However, the main markets are over 50 kilometers away, and transportation is very expensive. Rasida stepped in to address this problem, and with donations from Cordaid, were able to conduct a donkey cart distribution exercise to 10 riverine farmers in Ramu and Ramu Dimtu. The donkey cart project has changed the farmers' lives dramatically. The cart has become a source of livelihood for them and their families. As a result, some farmers have increased their farming output and are now able to transport farm produce to the market, to ferry water to households, to ferry firewood, to transport organic manure to the farms, carry animal fodder, and to ferry much-needed irrigation pipes to their farms, as well as ensure that irrigation pumps are safely carried home each night to avoid theft. The carts are also hired out to other farmers, and this has become a source of much-needed revenue. Rasida desires to nurture a culture that favors proactive and innovative developmental action. We work in a participative, consultative, and collaborative way with our stakeholders and other like-minded persons and organizations to share information and lessons learned. We ensure that the presence of women and their views is an integral part of the organization at all levels. Our overall objective is to increase the resilience of pastoralists and agro-pastoralist communities to manage the cyclical effects of droughts. Thanks to our intervention, pastoralist communities and their livestock are better able to resist and survive severe periods of drought.
Rasida has really shown good results and is actually one of our successful partner organizations.